This is Pharoh's house.
And I'm here with Ozmodayus.
Yes, greetings. It's a wide range of topics that I had for Pharaoh today, but whatever you had on the itinerary that you wanted to express, I don't know. I know you wanted to do this today, so I'm sure you had something that you wanted to say that was of value already before anything that I guess any question I have for you.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I got questions too. So let's start with a question for you in regards to how do you classify yourself?
As far as my classification, it's taken me a long time to figure something to give a name to something that's uh, a true description, I guess, of how I could classify myself. Because I guess it would always boil down to the name. Like, because if I'm gonna say I'm a thing, I'm gonna say I would say I am, or like if I said my name is something, then I am Osmodeus, or if I am somebody identifies with a color, they're gonna say I am this color or that color. But I never really had an opportunity to pick a side. I guess if people want to say that, like as far as dark and light goes. I feel like I mainly just assumed whatever people would classify me as, and I felt like I didn't necessarily have to express how I felt, like as far as classification goes, because I felt like I could never be. I didn't want to disrespect the the black or what people call the black experience or what black is, so-called black, and so to me, I never wanted to say that I'm black because I never wanted to just assume everything that came with that experience because I know my experience is not the same as what they people might mean when they say that experience. So I never wanted to offend anyone and say that I'm black, but I never felt like I was white. And I also never felt like I could call myself mixed just because of the way the, the I guess the chips fell. So or the way the cards were dealt. So it's taken me all of the 31 years of my life so far to figure out something that, as far as giving myself a name, and I feel like Osmodeus is a better classification of something that is not misleading as far as to how I could classify myself or what I am or what my being is, because it's more it's a more accurate description than say a color or um I guess I don't know any other classification that is not really like complete.
Now, I ask that when you respond or when you answer that you speak without metaphor and be concise as possible and also to the point, honest point, so that for those listening, there's no confusion and that what you say is appreciated but also received openly, honestly, and as it stands or as it is. There's no confusion on any part. But with regards to your answer, I did not really get it. But if you say that you're classifying yourself, this is what I got from your last sentences. You classify yourself as Osmodeus, as a name. But what do others see you as when they classify you?
I've been classified um, a bunch of different things at different times in my development based on the way my body looked, like if or my way my hair is. It depends on if I'm disheveled in my attire or not. All of that factors into who I'm with. All of that factors into who what people
In
have
general.
classified me. Yeah, people. I mean, in general, I mean, it really depends on where I am. A lot of people are gonna say I'm white, but it really depends on where I am. If I'm in a place that has a lot of mixed people or so-called mixed people, it's not necessarily assumed. It's kind of, because they know it's a difference. When I'm around other white people, they know there's a difference between me and them.
Mhm.
And so
Have you
it's
ever
more
asked
so,
a person who classifies themselves as so called white what they see you as?
yeah, I've asked people before. I mean, I've asked people. Most people just assume, they say I'm white or they assume that I'm white if You know, if they're from a certain place and they haven't experienced certain things, like
Mhm.
I feel like you have to see certain faces to see things in black and white like that. I mean, you have to not see certain faces like of the earth,
Now,
not be exposed to them.
what is color in terms of people to you? What is color?
Color, I guess you could say. I mean, for me personally, I would say there's only one color, and there's a lot of shades of the one color, or I guess, or darkness, or of light, vibrance, what have you. But I guess if I'm using it in like if I'm talking to someone that they're not communicating with themselves in the same way as me, I can talk to them about what color is or what people are. If I'm talking about black people, or if I'm saying black, I guess I'm typically referring to what people call like a sub-Saharan African. If you're saying black,
Now,
or if I'm saying black,
when you say sub-Saharan, sub means low or beneath, and Saharan, are you generalizing all people who have some form of melanin? Because the people in the Americas do not look like so-called sub-Saharan Africans.
yeah, no, I feel like I can see the differences between the different tribes of people. It it's just as far as like in society for communicating with people that have not, I guess, afforded themselves the perspective to see that there's differences, clear differences between the people that are of any shade. You know, there's dark people there's really dark people with straight hair, and there's really dark people with curly hair or kinky hair, and there's really pale people with straight hair and really pale people with curly or kinky hair. So it's I can see that, and see that there's a bunch of different archetypes and they can get diluted or albinized. But I know people might just lump it all as whiteness or lump it all as blackness or people of color. I don't know, like it gets sticky there as
Okay.
far as like dealing with perception.
And when you hear people of color, who are the people of color?
I guess anybody that would be not considered white on paper.
Okay. Now, is white a color?
No, no. If you ask me, it would be the absence of color. If you're asking me, but
So if I put red in a black room, can you see red?
no, no. If the room is all black, like there's no light in there, you're saying.
So wouldn't black be an absence of color as well?
I feel like it's just such a concentration of color that there's just no contrast.
Which means it's an absence of color if you can't see it through the senses, correct?
Yeah, I guess from the observable reality.
So there's
Yeah.
so there's color people and non-color people. How can white be in a crayon box and along with black, but not be a color? Or paint in a paint can in a paint store and not be a color. Have you seen white walls before?
Yeah, I mean, if I guess it's different shades of white. So I guess like what is true white?
Are there people that are that color, like a crayon or a can of Sherman Williams paint?
I'm
For
sure
that
anything
matter.
is possible. I'm sure anything is possible, but I don't know if I've met anybody that pale.
Okay, or have you met anyone black? Like black, so black you could not see them if they stood in a dark room.
I've seen, I mean, yeah, I've seen people, incredibly dark like that, where it looks like their skin almost looks like an oil spill in the sun.
So they're the same color as their hair. You've actually seen a group of people that black.
I haven't seen a large amounts of people like that, but I've seen people very black like that at different places in the world.
Now, in general, or generally speaking, people who you classify or classify themselves as, or others classify as so-called black, are they actually black, according to the color spectrum?
No, if we're going to dwell in reality based on what the colors are and in the reality of that, then no, a lot of people are. if if they're going to classify themselves a color, we'd have to make, I don't know how many distinctions of brown and caramel browns and dark browns and blue blacks and green blacks and all of those different distinctions. That would be, I don't know, I don't even know how you would go about doing that.
So perhaps black and white are not based on color.
No,
Would that
no.
be accurate?
Oh, it's definitely as you would say, it's status.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
therefore, one status is above another or raised above another?
Yeah, and in the reality that we're in, or in this environment that we're in right now, yeah, it definitely white has been considered like unscathed and just untampered with and pure. That's what white has been considered, and like we spoke about before, like early when I used to speak to you like years ago, you used to say every horror movie is actually racist because the dark is always associated with horror or fear or danger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like, yeah, the association with white being pureness or the opposite of all of those other things like danger and stuff, then yeah, I think that in the society that we're in, for the most part, white has been put above and in the mind, because heaven is considered white even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In
Okay.
a lot of people's mind. I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of people's mind, they think of whiteness when they think of heaven.
Mm-hmm. Do you see any particular visible advantages for those who classify themselves as white or so-called white versus those who classify themselves as black or so-called black? Do you see any actual physical advantage? Not societal, not social, not abstract. I mean, do you actually, when you see people who are supposedly those two sides of the spectrum or two different colors, or as you said, shades, do you see any physical advantages in one over the other?
I guess that's like really dependent on your value system. From my observable reality, I feel like uh, that there's obvious advantages to having darker skin, but I guess if you're in a society where it pays to be numb, being pale might be an advantage in a sick environment. But besides that, in a true value system, I would say, you definitely be able to you'd rather have the darkness to be able to process light
Mm-hmm.
and produce light.
Why do you think there is a disdain for what has been called darkness, but what actually is organic? Why do you think there is a disdain or a jealousy or an envy or anything negative towards that which is natural?
I guess it would just have to come with again like the status that comes with the fake environment. Like it's like being the tallest midget or being the smartest kid with Down syndrome almost. Like the things that come with the stat, like, because you're like it just comes with the phony environment. Like if you're in a more natural environment, then you'd want to have more natural everything. So like organic, like you were saying, more organic everything, your body, your clothing, everything. You want to have everything more organic in that environment, but within a phony environment, I guess it would be a reverse value system because everything's inverted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all I had for now. Your turn.
Um, I wanted to ask you about as far as like we were talking about how people summon forces when they masturbate or when they have sex.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you what there if like any etiquette or rules as far as like even with tantra.
Mm-hmm.
I know it would still be something that has to be respected, and there's a bunch of things that are being missed,
Well,
even if you are
mhm.
just casually doing that.
Well, those who claim to, just like with so-called race and status and color and all of that, those who are the most victimized are the most in the dark. So therefore, those who are victimizing themselves when it comes to so-called sexuality are truly in the dark and completely in the blind. I won't even say the dark. They're blinded, and we associate blind with dark, obviously. But if you think you are somehow defeating or tricking what you consider to be the hands of fate when it comes to masturbation by ejaculating, for example, you're only fooling yourself. You need to do some study on what is supposedly Tantra and realize that it had a purpose to give of energy, physical energy, to a so-called deity, or what some people would term a goddess. And the practice of it was not just certain forms of ejaculation and recycling of energy. There were always outcomes to the use of Tantra. And the main reason and the main purpose was goddess worship. And the goddess always demands a sacrifice in the form of the male, something, the head of the male. Thanks for listening. You've heard the first 15 minutes of this Podisode. Now go to pharohshouse.com and sign up to become a monthly subscriber and hear the next 30 minutes of this Podisode. Or go to my Patreon link that you see in the description and become a Patreon supporter of Pharoh's House, and you have access before everyone else does for the first 30 days after I've recorded it to 45 minutes to an hour's worth of Podisode. That's the Podisode in its full entirety, but only if you become a Patreon supporter today. Otherwise, please go to pharohshouse.com and sign up to become a monthly subscriber and hear 30 minutes of this Podisode. Thanks. Pharoh's House Podisode is the sole property of pharohshouse.com. All third-party copyrights revert to their original owners. To inquire about syndication or sponsorship, please visit our website at pharohshouse.com.